In Syria, the coalition of armed terrorist groups announced the creation of a transitional government led by Mohammed al-Bashir. A fire at a fuel depot run by Italian energy company Eni killed 2 people and left 3 missing in the Tuscany region. Latin American people commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Ayacucho, a heroic deed that put an end to the Spanish imperialism in the region. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. The coalition of armed terrorist groups in Syria responsible for the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad announced the creation of a transitional government led by Mohammed al-Bashir. According to the terrorist coalition, al-Bashir, who until now was at the head of a terrorist group belonging to the al-Qaeda organization, will be in charge of managing the transition phase in order to establish the new government under the pretext of preventing Syria from entering into a state of chaos. In this context, the armed group informed that the new administration will start its work after the establishment of the new state, while emphasizing that its forces are advancing in the total control of the capital, Damascus. The announcement was made after talks between the extremist groups and former Prime Minister Mohammed al-Halali. The World Health Organization urged all sides involved in the Syrian conflict to assure the safe access to health care in the country. Precisely, World Health Organization's regional office for the Eastern Mediterranean requests all parties to guarantee the safety of health personnel, health centers, and the continuity of medical services. On November the 27th, terrorist groups launched a large-scale overnight offensive against the National Armed Forces, taking over several cities and proclaiming a coup to the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The office of Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed on Monday that he personally authorized political asylum for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his family. Likewise, the head of his office, Dmitry Peskov, confirmed that Moscow remains committed to dialogue among all regional countries regarding Syria. In addition, the diplomat warned that a very complex time is approaching associated with instability in Arab nations. Nonetheless, the Kremlin spokesperson did not provide any details on the whereabouts of President al-Assad, noting that no meetings between the Russian head of state and his new guests has been scheduled yet. The Russian State Duma called for the protection of all Syrian cultural heritage in the face of the recent coup by terrorist groups in the Arab nation. The Russian Deputy Speaker of the lower house of parliament recalled that the UN Organization for Education, Science and Culture, UNESCO, has the duty to safeguard and join efforts in the care of the Syrian cultural heritage. Likewise, the legislators attach great importance to the Syrian heritage as well as its ancient monuments and sacred sites as they represent the intercultural dialogue. Grounded in terrorist groups since November the 27th, launched attacks on the Syrian cities of Aleppo, Hama, Homs, and Damascus, and proclaiming the fall of President Bashar al-Assad, who found a political asylum in Russia. The United Nations Security Council discussed the current situation in Syria following the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad. Russian Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Dmitry Polansky, said that a meeting was called for because of the implementation in the country and in the regions as a whole. In the turn, Polansky points out that for Russia, it is important to understand the current role of the United Nations, disengagement observed of force in the Syrian Golan since 1974. In this regard, the Israeli army confirmed that the deployment of military troops inside the demilitarized area in the Golan Heights under the excuse of protecting its people. Meanwhile, Israel stepped up in attacks against the Syrian Golan Heights following the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad by terrorist group. In shelling of armed depots in several areas of the Arab country, the Israeli regime troops took control of Syrian territory in the Golan Heights and warned local residents to stay in their homes. In this context, rural areas near the Israeli border were declared closed military zones, and several institutions closed their doors out of fears of possible confrontations. At the same time, it was reported Israeli occupation forces launched a series of attacks against the southern city of Dara. Let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news format, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The Israeli genocidal forces have dropped shelling on different spots of the Gaza Strip, claiming at least 3 lives on Sunday. Among the hit areas was Gaza in downtown, people, including children and women. Likewise, local outlets report bombing on a municipal park in the Gaza City, bringing out at least 12 deaths. In Lebanon, at least 2 people were killed following shelling by the Israeli occupation army in the south of the nation in a new violation of the ceasefire agreement. The Ministry of Health confirmed the death of the people during an airstrike perpetrated by the Zionist army against the locality of Dibin. The Israeli troops continue the aggressions against the Lebanese people under the excuse of attacking the positions of the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah. According to the official figures, more than 3,000 Lebanese have been killed and more than 14,000 have been wounded since the beginning of the most recent escalations of the Zionist offensive against Lebanon. Since the onset of the Taliban regime in 2021, Afghan girls and women have been deprived of their essential human rights. Afghan girls and women have no rights to go to a park, a gym, speak in public, or access secondary and university education. Last Tuesday, the government tightened their aggressive policy on girls and women by banning them from all medical training universities, including midwifery major. In this regard, the UN Human Rights Office ushered reportedly condemned such a prohibition, describing it as a profoundly discriminatory side which up girls and women's lives at risk in multiple ways. In addition, the World Health Organization noted that 620 women were dying per 100,000 live births. A former university study shared her experience.
I was in my 8th semester of medical studies at a university before women were barred. We were banned from medical school, so we were hoping to get a midwifery degree and serve our country that way. Now that the school has closed, all our hopes are gone.
After days of anti-government protests in Georgia, Prime Minister Iraq leader Kobosh Kise said that police successfully averted a coup attempt.
In recent days, the Ministry of Internal Affairs adhered to high U.S. and European standards, successfully averting the Maidan attempt in our country within just 5 days. Rallies continue to lack substance. 4 political parties and more than 10 of the wealthiest NGOs gather on Rustaveli Avenue, yet collectively they cannot attract even 5,000 participants. The only demand that is being actively voiced is the release of those responsible for the violence, thereby confirming that the respective parties were indeed behind the unrest.
In Italy, a fire that failed depot run by Italian energy company Eni near Florence and killed 2 people and left 3 missing. Authorities also registered 9 people injured during the fire. In a statement, Eni said that the fire had been confined to the loading sheltering area and had not reached any fuel tanks. The energy company added that investigations were underway into the cause. The president of the Central Tuscany region said experts are certain potential pollution, including on nearby waterways. People within 5 kilometers of the plant were told to stay at home and close their doors and windows. The executive vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, arrived in the Chinese city of Shenzhen with the objectives of strengthening bilateral cooperation for the shared benefit of the people. On Monday, the Venezuelan vice president met with the mayor of the city, Mr. Qin Weishan, with the purpose of exchanging experiences and strengthening cooperation and integration ties between both countries. During the meeting, Rodriguez highlighted that the homeland of Bolivar is moving towards the construction and consolidation of special economic zones, of which Shenzhen is a fundamental example. For his part, Mayor Qin Weishan, on behalf of the city, expressed the gratitude of the active long-term support that Venezuela has given to China through cooperation between both countries. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch on interviews, sub-stories, special broadcasts, and more. It is subscribe and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. We'll find a short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Latin American countries commemorate on Monday, December the 9th, the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Ayacucho, a historical event that marks the end of Spanish rule in South America, consolidating the region's independence. In Venezuela, words were laid to the hero of independence, Simón Bolívar, at the National Pantheon in Caracas to celebrate such a prominent date. During the event, the Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, highlighted the impetus of Bolívar and Antonio de Sucre to lead a battle to wipe out the Spanish hegemony in South America. Likewise, Cabello points out that in the 21st century, Commander Chavez continued with the struggle of the founding fathers of the freedom of the Latin American people.
Referring to Ayacucho is to speak about both Bolívar and Sucre, and their extraordinary relationship stemming from and building up from the heat of the most breathtaking struggles for national independence.
Likewise, Minister Cabello underscores that as in the Battle of Ayacucho, the free peoples of Latin America will rise up against the imperialism U.S. empire.
It is unfair to try to undermine the independence struggles of 200 years ago. They faced the Spanish Empire, the most powerful empire of those times, barbarians, genocidal, and terrible murderers. 200 years later, the sons and daughters of Sucre, Bolívar, and why not the sons and daughters of Chavez, are facing the most powerful empire of all times. And I have no hesitations that, as Ayacucho, we will raise the flag that Commander Chavez raised, and we will feel what Commander Chavez felt on that white horse by raising the flag of freedom, the flag of the struggles of the free peoples.
In Haiti, criminal armed groups killed more than 180 people in the last 48 hours. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, said that at least 184 people were killed over the weekend in clashes led by leaders of the Ghani neighborhoods of the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince. With these figures, the death tolls in Haiti so far in 2024 amounts to 5,000 people. Haiti has been suffering from years from political instability and a security crisis, likewise with armed paramilitary groups that control 80% of the capital and commit murders, kidnappings, and sexual violence in a large scale. In Brazil, the Rio de Janeiro Public Prosecutor's Office filed an appeal to search the sentence of the guilty ones of double homicide of Consular Marielle Franco and her driver Anderson Gomez, which occurred in 2018. On the night of March 14, 2018, in Rio de Janeiro, former military Raniles and Elcio Queiroz were pulling up alongside the victim's cars for 13 times, from which only the Aire Fernanda Chavez survived. The aforesaid culprits were charged with double homicides with triple aggravation, attempted murder of the surviving aide, and to the use of the stolen vehicle. As a result, they receive a 78 years and 59 years sentence respectively, and they had to pay around $118,000 in compensations. Nowadays, the Public Prosecutor's Office arguing in its appeals that some fundamental items were not adequately managed in their first sentence. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials from Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.